Today I bring to you all what will hopefully be a very useful comparison guide for none other than the Chanel Classic Flap bag. Now, as you can see behind me, over the years I've accumulated many different sizes and colours of this bag, so I wanted to sit down and film a useful guide. It'll be like the ultimate classic flap guide for you. The classic flap is the most iconic bag from Chanel. It's a topic that I honestly receive so many questions about. I've made obviously videos in the past about this particular bag, and I get a lot of questions from you guys asking for recommendations on what the right size for me is, what the right leather is, etc. And all of that I will go through in terms of my standard format anyway, the following sections. So I'll talk about the history of the bag, the context, then I'll talk about the features, what makes it so distinctly and uniquely classic flap. Then I will talk about the sizes, and I will also put inside that measurements. I also have some scales, which I know some of you find useful to weigh the bag as well. I'll also include mod shots where relevant. I'll then talk about prices because I know prices are on the minds of many. Then I will talk through what actually fits inside. We'll do a live experiment. Then we will talk about pros and cons of each bag, followed by, like my final recommendation. So there is a lot going into this video. But before we dive into the details, I think a disclaimer is due, because I'm sure in doing this guide, there will be many amongst you that will question why on earth I'm still recommending a classic flap, given all controversies around the recent price increases, the increased exclusivity of the brand, and coupled with the inconsistent quality and craftsmanship of the bag. I know a lot of people will be questioning why this guide is still being made, but I think despite all of the factors that I've mentioned, I think there's still something to be said around its timeless design, the history, the heritage, even the fact that it's a status symbol. There will always still be somebody out there who wants it. I still think that if you do still have affinity for the brand, nothing really will stop you, with all these comments and things being said, from still lusting after this bag. So I do still believe it's important to provide guidance for those of you out there who still want to own a piece from this fashion house. And so with all those factors, I want to make sure that if you only have, the budget for one or maybe two in your lifetime, that you pick the right one. And finally, to round off the disclaimers part of this section, obviously I'm going to try and be as comprehensive as possible in cramming everything into this guide, but obviously it does not hurt to watch other comparisons online or read blog posts, or even if I've missed out a section, you can feel free to ask in the comments down below, and I'll do my absolute best to try and help. So in terms of the history of this particular bag, I'm sure a lot of you out there will be familiar with Coco Chanel, who's obviously the founder, the creator of the iconic brand. Some of you out there who are new to the brand might just ordinarily assume that it was Coco Chanel that designed this particular bag. However, while it's true that her vision and design choices paved the way for a lot of iconic bag designs that we see today in the fashion house, this particular bag was not actually the bag that she designed. This one was actually designed by Karl Lagerfeld, who succeeded her as creative director. Actually, the first bag that was created was the Chanel reissue bag. And now this one was introduced in February 1955, and this was known as the 2.55. This particular reissue bag was a very revolutionary design at the time, and it paved the way actually for the creation many years later in the 1980s for Karl Lagerfeld to reintroduce and revamp basically what was the maybe outdated reissue bag with the modern twists that we all know today in terms of the CZ turn lock closure and also the leather interwoven chain details. It's crazy to think fast forward many years that the classic flap is the bag that we all know and love today. So let's start with the body of the bag. So obviously the diamond quilting is incredibly distinctive. Not only does it add that touch of sophistication, but it provides durability to the bag. It makes it look nice and puffy and full. Then obviously we've got the interlocking CC logo, which was, like I mentioned before, introduced as a new feature by Karl Lagerfeld. And obviously who doesn't recognize the CC logo from afar? Now let's talk about the chain strap, which is often intertwined with the leather in this particular classic flap model, and that allows for a lot of versatile styling options and comfort on your shoulder. And another noteworthy detail, at least on this body, body. Here is the back pocket, which is known as the Mona Lisa Smile pocket, and this provides obviously easy access to your essentials. Now let's head on inside the bag to reveal the iconic double flap, which is obviously the namesake of this bag. Now many of you will be familiar with the fact that there are single flap bags in existence, and obviously the Chanel Mini has actually a single flap, but the classic flap that we all know and love today does actually have the double flap, which not only serves, I suppose, the aesthetic function, but also has an actual practical function, because this double flap actually helps to protect the contents of the bag. It also provides structure to the bag. It also provides a bit more extra storage, and you also have a secret pocket in here, which to be honest doesn't really fit so much. And now if we open up the inside properly to have a look on the interiors, I'm sure many of you have seen the inside of a Chanel classic flap before, but just to recap for those that aren't as familiar, we've got 3 little pockets at the back. So the inside one, the middle compartment, is a lipstick holder, and then you've just got an open cavern in the middle here. For the newer Chanel classic flap models, instead of a little tab by which you have the serial number of the bag for authenticity, you instead have a chip. So that removes the need for an authenticity card itself. This particular bag, my navy Chanel classic flap, is a newer model, so we do have the chip inside. I think it was 2021 perhaps that they introduced this. My other bags don't have this particular chip. I still have the authenticity cards for those. Obviously, the astute among you will notice there is just another pocket here at the front where you can store a little bit more of your belongings here. And we just have just one open cavern, and that's pretty much it in terms of the storage capacity. Obviously, you can see the embossing of the Chanel logo on the inside of this double flap, and you obviously have the Chanel made in France. All of the Chanel classic flaps are made in France, because I know a lot of you out there might be wondering, do they still make these bags in France? They certainly do for the classic flap because of heritage reasons, I think, and also the extortionate price increases. They better make them in France. But obviously other kind of new classic models or ones that are not part of the kind of core range, they will be made in other markets like Italy. And now if we just talk about the chain strap for a second here, this is very useful and also equally iconic because this makes the bag able to be worn in multiple different ways. We have 4 grommets here instead of maybe the usual 2 that you'd expect on bags. So this makes this bag a very multifunctional, multi-purpose bag. So there are 6 bags sizes that I personally know that are available. Who knows in the future, maybe Chanel might add another in-between size somewhere else. And the first of these sizes is part of the mini range, which is, I suppose, officially, unofficially part of the classic flap range. Some people include it, some people don't, but just for the sake of completeness, I will say that it is included. And that is the Chanel mini flap bag in the square size. It is a very popular size and it's one of the more affordable in terms of price points. And now let's talk about the other size that's part of the mini flap range, and that is the rectangle, which I do have here myself. It has more width because it's a rectangle shape as opposed to the square, which is a little bit more tall, and this is also equally popular, but it doesn't have a double flap, it is just a single flap. The next size up from that is the small classic flap. For those of you that don't count the minis, this will be the first in the official sizes and obviously the smallest. Up from that, we have the medium flap bag. I have actually 2 in my collection. As you can see, we've got the navy quilted, which is a bit more of the classic look, and then we've got this more kind of alternative modern twist on the classic flap with this chevron, Tiffany blue or Tiffany green bag. And then the next size up from that is the Chanel large or jumbo flap. This is obviously the reissue, but the size is pretty much the same. And we've got this very cool apricot color. The chevron is also very unique, and bam, we have amazing kind of electric blue interiors. And then the final that closes off, I suppose, this range is the Chanel classic flap in the maxi size, which I do not obviously have, but it's pretty big. Now, obviously, these bags not only vary in the sizes, but they also vary in the price. And I will be talking about them in British pounds, so just please use your kind of currency exchange equivalent for your relevant country. And so I'm just going to be reading you out the approximate prices for each of the classic flap bag sizes that I've mentioned. as of now, filming this video in 2023. If this changes in the near future, then please do consult either the Chanel website, or there are certain blog post forums dedicated to this, or you can ask your sales associate on the latest as well. I will start with the mini square flap, and that is currently retailing at £3,960. The mini rectangle flap is retailing at £4,130. The small classic flap is £8,180, which is nuts. We have double the price. The medium classic flap is £8,530. And the jumbo and the maxi together are both price upon request. So they're no doubt in the tens of thousands of pounds mark. But obviously these can vary depending on factors like your location. They do try and do price harmonization, I think. Because of these actions, Chanel's surpassed brands like Hermes, and their Hermes Birkins and Kellys, obviously their flagship and their most coveted, and therefore you can see that they're really trying to push the exclusivity angle and the demand for Chanel. And it's also not accounted for the fact that, you know, there are limited edition versions and colorways and materials as well that come out, so it could potentially be more than the prices that I've actually mentioned just now. So now let's talk measurements of each of these bags. Now, obviously for the bags that I don't have, you will just get measurements on screen. For the ones that I do have in front of me, I will also insert some modeling shots, and for reference, I'm about 5'7". So in terms of the mini square flat bag, obviously I do not have this on front of me, but in terms of the height, we have 13.5 centimeters, then the width is 17 centimeters, and the depth is 8 centimeters. And this converts to inches into the following, so 4.7 inches by 7.8 inches by 2.3 inches. Now let's move on to the mini rectangle flap, which I do have obviously, and in terms of the dimensions, we have got the height as 12 centimeters by 20 centimeters width, and then 6 centimeters depth. And in inches, that is 5.3 inches by 6.6 inches by 3.1 inches. Now let's talk about the small classic flap, and the dimensions on this one are height 14.5 centimeters, then we have the width 23 centimeters, and then we have the depth 6 centimeters, and this converts in inches to 5.7 inches by 9 inches by 2.3 inches. Let's move on to the medium classic flat bag, and in terms of the dimensions in centimeters, we have the height as 15.5 centimeters, we have the width at 25.5 centimeters, and depth at 6.5 centimeters, and in inches that is 6 inches by 9.9 inches by 2.5 inches. Then let's move on to the jumbo bag, and obviously this is an approximation because I do have the reissue here, but in terms of measurements, we have in centimeters the height 19.5 centimeters by width of 30 centimeters and depth of 10 centimeters, and that converts in inches into 7.6 inches by 11.7 inches by 3.9 inches. And then finally we have the maxi bag, which I do not have, but the dimensions are as follows in centimeters. So we have the height as 23 centimeters by the width of 33 centimeters and the depth of 10 centimeters. And that converts to inches as 9 inches by 12.9 inches by 3.9 inches. At least for the bags that I do have, I will use my trusty kitchen scales and weigh them for you. So let's do the mini flat bag first. So I've just got my scales here, and I'm just going to change the unit to grams. So the mini rectangle flat bag comes in at 410 grams. Then we have the small classic flap, which I will also weigh empty, and that is coming in at 611 grams. Now let's move on to the medium flap bag, and that comes in at 619 grams. Finally, we have the jumbo flap bag, and that comes in at 856 grams. So obviously these are approximations depending on the types of leather and things that you have, might weigh a little bit differently, but hopefully that gives you an idea, and when I do fill it with stuff later on, I will also weigh it as well, just so you see how much these bags can fit according to. So in terms of the leathers, the two that are the most well known for the classic flat bag are the caviar and lambskin leather. And I think a lot of people would tend to agree that of the two leathers, the caviar is the more durable of the lot, but the lambskin has better colorways that are more vibrant. The lambskin leather is just so soft and supple, it will just absorb bright colors really, really well. But by no means is, I suppose, one better than the other. It's all personal preference at the end of the day. From my personal view, the caviar suits my needs and likes the best. So that is why all my bags are in caviar leather. Obviously, you can get different materials outside of those two classic ones. So you can obviously get variations on the leather. So you can get like goat's leather, I think, maybe in some seasonal versions. I also have this one in crumpled calf leather, which obviously creates a bit more of an oil slick finish. And obviously the different types of finishing on the material can also be different. You know, some of the ones that I do have, like this mint colored one, and we also have this navy one, have a sheen to it. And other bags that I have, for example, the Tiffany blue medium flat bag and the reissue bag here have more of a matte finish to the leather. So even though you have those, you know, classic leather options, they can also vary in terms of the finish, so it makes it look very, very different. You can also get more seasonal and limited edition materials such as, you know, sequins. You can get fabric. I believe in the past when Chanel used to do the exotic leathers, that you could get ones in snakeskin, etc. And of course, with different materials, you can also get different colors. So classic colorways are obviously the black, the beige. You also get cool seasonal colors like you can see behind me, and of course you can also have different hardware options. So obviously you've got this classic yellow gold, you've got then like the champagne gold color, then you've got the silver, even ruthenium, even rose gold now, and so black versions or other versions that are basically the same color as the bag, as well as many enamel finishes, etc. And so there is definitely something out there for everyone. All right, everybody, I've brought you now to flat surface so that we could film the what fits inside every single size of classic flap. We're going to start with the Chanel Mini in the rectangle size, and I will start actually by weighing using my trusty kitchen scales before everything goes into it, and I do have a lot of things here, as well as afterwards once those things have gone inside. So let me just reset the unit and just recap how much this bag weighs. And that is about 409 grams. Obviously this could differ by a small increment, but that is roughly what it is at the moment. And I will be using the same items where possible for the other bags so that you can see how much more each bag can fit as it goes up in size. So obviously the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fit my phone in there. So I have the iPhone, I think it's 14 Pro Max, so it's the biggest size. And this obviously fits very nicely. So if any of you out there are wondering, does this small bag fit a phone? Yes, it does. I only buy bags that fit phones because otherwise they're not bags, they're little trinkets. I think we may struggle with this, but I'm going to just show you anyway what a Chanel wallet looks like. So this is just a classic kind of wallet. It's in this iridescent, very nice. And this basically takes up the entirety of this bag. Now what I'll do is I'll continue to fill this bag up. But actually, if you just swap this for, I don't know, a card holder or just to bring a few cards and pop them into the zip compartment, then you would actually free up a lot more space. And to be honest, I prefer to do that with this bag because otherwise you're not going to get much in. So obviously you can close the bag at this stage, but it's just a little bit bulky. And actually the fact that it doesn't have a double flap here means that it can actually fit inside. Now we can try and bring some other smaller objects perhaps. Now I do have a variety of things like AirPods and keys. Keys, I don't know, would fit. I mean, you could actually make this work. You could just about fit your keys. So you have your phone, your wallet, and your keys, which is your essentials. Outside of that, you might be able to get in a lipstick or something. I have a liquid lip here. And that would pretty much, I think, be your bag full. And now actually what I'll do is I'll weigh this bag as it currently is, which, if I just put the handle over it so that it encompasses that weight, is 670 grams. If I was to take out the wallet and let's say hypothetically just had a few cards in, you could, as illustrative demonstration, prop that in there. Then you could instead have, okay, you could bring your keys and that could fit lengthways or vertically as well. Then you can have a powder compact. I just have my Mac Studio Fix in here. then you would have a lot more space to bring more things. So for example, I'll just take this Carex hand wash. You could lie it on top like this. You could also bring again the liquid lip that could also lie on top. And actually you have a little bit more space for something else. So I would have my AirPods case that could probably fit just like that. And that, to be honest, is again your bag full, and it fastens nicely without any kind of lumps or bumps. And this is at 610 grams, which I think is pretty much similar to the one before. That is the capacity. So let's just recap. We've got the hand wash, liquid lip, AirPods, keys, powder compact, and you've got a phone here as well. So that is what fits in the Chanel Mini. All right, so now let's move on to the small classic flap, and I will start again by weighing the bag. This bag weighs approximately 611 grams. We'll try and go in a similar kind of fashion. Start again with the iPhone Pro Max in here, and this is, you know, the amount of space that's left in case you're interested. Let's then go in with the Chanel wallet. Now, surprisingly, because of the classic flap, the double flap of the classic flap, it's a little bit more squished together. Can you see that? It's a little bit more squished compared to the Mini, which is, you know, it was able to fit quite comfortably. So now we just have this small increment left. So let's go in and let's see if the keys can fit. So my Louis Vuitton key pouch can fit horizontally. And then we just have a vertical space here, which I'm going to hope fits this hand wash here. And actually that is pretty snug. So we're just going to be able to fit the liquid lipstick on top. And I think that is the most we're going to get into it. Yeah, that is pretty full. I would probably take out this big wallet. I would again put some cards. Oops. I would then put some cards or something inside. So if you were to take out this and instead put, you know, your powder compact and some AirPods or equivalent, then that obviously makes the bag a lot roomier and you can actually shuffle your belongings in and out more comfortably. And then I would say that is a pretty nice and snug fit. So let's then go ahead and weigh what this bag would be. Oh my goodness, 1,209 grams or 1.2 kilograms. That is nuts. I will say it is quite heavy at the moment, so I would wear this double strapped, and I think that's largely because of, I think, the keys and the phone, and also because the double flap rather, is a lot heavier than the Mini, which has obviously single, so that's just something to consider. But yes, it can fit double the weight. So just to recap what it can fit in the small classic flap, we have AirPods, a liquid lip, hand wash, we have a compact, some keys, and a phone. And that is what we can fit inside a small classic flap. Let's move on to the medium classic flap now, and we will do the same and weigh her. So before, she is 619 grams. That is actually pretty light, all things considered, given that the small was only a few grams lighter than this one. We will start with the most essential, the phone. Now, this is what the phone looks like as a reference point. In the bag, as you can see, loads and loads more space. Let's move to the wallet, which again, actually fits this time instead of a squeeze. Then we can add keys, and keys actually cheekily can fit horizontally, which creates a lot more space. Obviously you can do it vertically, but I think let's see what else we can cram in here for size perspective. Now let's see if we can get the compact in, and it would shut like this. Obviously you could do it vertically and that could fit. Then we've also got the AirPods in here. Now this one is an interesting shape. You could fit it like that, you could. I mean, some people might cringe, but you could have it slightly vertical and it would shut, yes. What other things? Could we fit a hand wash in there? Could we sneak one in? I think we could. Now this is, I think, as full as I'd want it to be. I think you could sneak one in. Should I do it just for the experiment? Let's do it. The liquid lip and Tetris a few things around. It would fit. So that is how much it would fit without the need to take out your full wallet. It is quite heavy though. I imagine it's going to be double the weight. So let's weigh her now. It's like 1,450 grams or 1.4 kilograms. So that is mad. Over double the weight. So just to recap the items we have a hand wash, liquid lip, headphones or AirPods, powder compact, huge wallet, huge keys. Let's move this all back. And then finally the iPhone. So that is what fits inside the medium classic flap. So now finally we're going to do the what fits inside the jumbo flat bag. Obviously it's a reissue, but for the sake of this video, it's going to work. So the sizes are pretty similar. So let's weigh her now. Got about 837 grams here. Let's start, of course, with the phone as a reference point. And the phone can actually fit in the front compartments as well, which is great. But just since we've been putting it in the back, that's what she looks like in the back. Then we've got the Chanel wallet. That's going to go inside. Loads and loads of space, as you can see. No struggles there. Then we've got the key pouch, the key holder, and that can go in horizontally or vertically. Now let's get in the powder compact very comfortably. Just chuck those in. Hand wash. We can fit the AirPods, liquid lip, and we still have plenty of space left. In fact, things are now getting stuck inside, moving around, so I'm just going to make them all vertical now. And we can probably get an external battery inside, actually. Have a pack of tissues here, which we can just shove on top. Also have rape alarm, because you never know what will happen. And let's actually just pull the chains out and now fit this on top. It is a very heavy, my goodness. 1,894, or basically 1.9 kilograms. So that is a crazy amount to fit in. Now, obviously you can take a few things out and substitute. You can obviously take out the wallet, it's quite big. You can actually also even fit a little umbrella. So this one's a tiny one looking like a medicine pill. You could obviously take that out and it would fit actually pretty comfortably. But for the time being, for the sake of this video, what we do have inside are as follows. So, pack of tissues, we've got a full-size wallet, got hand wash, external battery, AirPods, keys, powder compact, liquid lip, and of course the trusty and necessary phone. And that, oh wait, and we also have the rape alarm. Necessities, my peeps. So that is everything that this big boy reissue or jumbo can fit. Okay, now let's talk about the different ways to wear each of these bags. So of course, like we've talked about before, one bag has multiple ways to wear it. And obviously this will vary a little bit depending on the size of the bag that you have. So I will just impart some of my own personal observations and the ways that I personally wear and style the bag. So let's start with the mini flat bags. And now I obviously don't have the square, but I think they're pretty much the same in terms of the ways to wear. And I predominantly wear this bag for crossbody. Crossbody I feel like is the safest and it falls on me the nicest crossbody, as opposed to one strap over one shoulder, which I do find if you're taller, I think this could work, but if you're shorter, this might be a little bit too long. Alternatively, you can actually, because it obviously only has 2 grommets, but you can just do the figure 8, tuck it into the flap here, and you can actually, make this into a double strap bag, which is ever so cute. And actually, if they made a bag this size with the double strap capability, that would be amazing. But that is a workaround, and I personally find this to be a very cute and also secure way of wearing the bag. And actually, the double strap drop length is actually really, really good. You can actually wear this as a very cute little clutch. If I just tucked all the handles in and everything, I think that is definitely also an option. It's perfect for evening events, and it's perfect for, days when you don't have that much to bring, because, although it can actually fit a lot inside, as you can see, it's just one big open cabin, which I personally prefer sometimes over the double flap. You're not going to be bringing everything you can just stick in this particular bag. Now let's move on to the small classic flat bag, and this one, obviously having the 4 grommets instead of the 2 from the minis, offers a lot more in terms of versatility. It could be, it's a big clutch, but it could work as a bit of a clutch here. You can also, if you've tucked the handles in tightly enough, wear this as a little bit of a top handle bag. If I open this up and I take the straps out from inside, you've obviously got the classic and the most preferred way that I wear this bag anyway, double strapped over the shoulder. I think it looks great, and the drop length is really good as well. It doesn't dig into the pit, and obviously you can then wear it on one shoulder with just one long strap. This is just not going to work as a crossbody bag. I feel like the only bag that really works crossbody is the Chanel Mini. I suppose if you're shorter, maybe you can get this in, but good luck to you. I personally don't think, yeah, I mean, it just sits under my bosom and it's not very comfortable. It is great for a day to night transition because it does fit a good amount of stuff inside, and also doesn't look super bulky if you were to have this for an evening event. And obviously it depends on the colorways and the hardwares that you have. And now let's move on to the medium flap bag. So this is a very elegant over the shoulder bag. I would say that is pretty much the only way that I wear this bag. Obviously you can do this one strap over the shoulder, but I personally think for a bag of this size and this value, let's be honest, I want to keep this as close to my body as possible. So over the shoulder is pretty much exclusively what I wear it as. This is great for a day out where you have a few things that you need to bring and it's not just your phone and your wallet and your keys. Now finally, for the size that I do have in my possession, the jumbo bag, classic or reissue, this is also again predominantly a shoulder bag. With its size, it can pack a lot more inside. You can actually fit a bottle of water in here, a smaller one. If your work is bougie, you could use it as a work bag, but if you do have a day out traveling, maybe this could be your airport bag. And similarly for the maxi size as well, obviously way bigger than the jumbo size. I personally think it swamps me a little bit. I have tried a maxi on in the past. If you do want an airport bag, I think the maxi is great. Though I do think, again, wearing it as the shoulder bag, double strapped, is probably the best way to wear the maxi bag, given its size and given how much is inside. You don't want to weigh the bag down with just one strap. Alright, so now let's talk about the pros and cons of both the classic flap as a whole and also the specific sizes. In general, it cannot be overstated, the timeless elegance, the mostly impeccable craftsmanship. I mean, if you get a vintage version, they are like 24 karat gold, aren't they? And I suppose the sense of status and luxury that it exudes, that elevates any outfit. I cannot lie, my classic flaps are the ones that I reach for every day first. It is a bag that has endured decades already, and I'm sure it will endure for many more to come. It is an heirloom piece. It does, albeit controversially, increase in value, and I do think it makes a good investment. I think the style is one that will never go out of fashion. There are so many bags from so many different brands that copy this particular silhouette. As they say, imitation can be flattery, so I think that is a testament to the iconic nature of this particular bag. I think the bag offers also a lot of variation in terms of the different finishes, the leathers, the colors, etc. that you can get, which means that for a bag that some people would argue is archaic, there are so many options, especially ones that you can see behind me, that are really fun and colorful and different. And even if you do like the classic versions, I do think that they are timeless, and I do think you can wear them not just in your 20s or 30s, but into your 60s, 70s and 80s, and it's something that you will get the most out of your money. The cons for the bag as a whole is largely around price, and obviously this will depend on which model of bag that you get, because I do think some prices are more palatable than others. So you could buy the bag pre-loved, or you could buy this bag tax-free. I think those are really good ways to circumvent the price increases. I also think sometimes, you know, if you're picking one bag that will last you many years, maybe it's worth the investment. I always think money now is worth more than money later. So if you are able to buy the bag that you really want and you just cannot get it out of the head, suck up the price, I think is the best option, because you'd rather get one item that you use all the time than lots of little ones that do not satiate what you really want. And obviously I think some other people would say the design is very done, it's very basic. I think some people might think actually that everybody has this bag, but the reality is that that is just social media, that is the echo chamber known as the algorithm. And to be honest, I've never been in a situation where someone had the exact same handbag as me at an event where there are a lot of other influencers and content creators out there. That has never happened to me. Similarly, if I'm at a luxury hotel or in even a Chanel store, I've never seen anyone that had the same bag as me. It's a very classic style, and so that's why, even if you do think a lot of people have it, that's for good reason. And, you know, I'd argue also that this is very true with Hermes, Birkins and Kellys. And I guess that provides a nice segue into the fact that some people might think that it's very loud. And obviously the CC terminal closure is one of the main factors of it. And look, this is just a feature of having something that is identifiable and iconic, whether it be a handbag, whether it be jewelry, whether it be a car or something. So this is just something that you're gonna have, especially if it's luxury and it's up there in price. And to be honest, I think a part of us wants to have the brand and wants to show either ourselves or others that this is something that we worked hard for or that is coveted, because otherwise you wouldn't go luxury, you'd just go high street or something, right? So I think that one's a bit of a moot point but the nature of luxury, it's something that not everybody else has. And obviously with the Chanel Classic Flat versus the reissue, the reason why people like this one, I honestly think, is because there is the logo. And if you do want to go low key, there are the reissue options available for you. So you're by no means, stumped just with this particular bag. And I think that actually goes nicely into the safety and security point. Some people might think that this is basically a security hazard waiting to happen, and I definitely don't disagree with that at all. But I do think, as with any discerning citizen, just be safe around when you're wearing this bag and how you wear it, and don't obviously be flashing it around, throwing it around, or leaving it on seats without being attended to. I think that's just basic common sense. And if it's something that you don't think that you're able to do, I would honestly question why you would want a Chanel Classic Flap, or indeed watching this video anyway. And then another big con, of course, is the quality, which I said I wouldn't dwell on too much because honestly it's a separate topic in itself. But from my personal experiences, I've not had quality issues with my classic flaps. Even now, if you do, they do have a warranty. I believe it is 5 years for any kind of damages or defects. That's not to take away from the fact that some people experience these, but all I can say is if you're buying from the store, go and inspect your bags like hell. It is your responsibility as the buyer to make sure that you are happy and satisfied with everything that is presented in front of you. If you buy something that has a wonky flap or the quilting is not even, I think that is equally as much your responsibility as it is Chanel's. Obviously, so you shouldn't be selling that in the first place, and obviously things can also happen post-purchase. But I think that is just something that happens with any brand, and it just so happens that some people are lucky and some people are not. You can always also go the pre-loved route if you do not feel comfortable in getting a bag of the current quality as well. Now let's kind of go into the pros and cons of each of the individual sizes, because they all have their own unique benefits and considerations. Let's talk about the Chanel minis, and I'll bucket the square and the mini together. And so pros for this particular side, obviously compact and lightweight. They're perfect for those of you out there who prefer smaller bags. A bag that is very versatile, whether that be crossbody or one shoulder, double strap over the shoulder, clutch option. And obviously this is a lot more affordable compared to the larger sizes of the double flap bag. And I do think another big pro with this bag is that because it only has a single flap, it can store so much, as you've seen in the video just earlier. And I think it just, as a very shrunk down version, it just looks super cute. Obviously, with that being said, in terms of cons, some people might say that it does have a lot limited capacity, so you don't really have the ability to accommodate larger items or have extensive storage in there. But obviously that is just then a bag that is not suitable for you and your lifestyle. And if you do prefer a more spacious bag, or you want to carry more items, you should probably go a size up. And also some people might not like the fact that you cannot wear this bag double strapped over the shoulder. It only has 2 grommets, but I think based on the workaround that I've mentioned before, plus the fact that you could probably hook on your own strap if you wanted to, that is something that you can work around. Now let's move on into the Chanel small flat bag. And in terms of the pros, I think this one has the best of both worlds in terms of a compact size that strikes a balance between functionality and also an elegance. It's basically like the mini bag, but with 4 grommets. The ability to wear it in multiple different ways is a godsend. Now conversely, some people might say that this bag is still limited in the space, because while it does fit enough of your essentials, the double flap on the inside is actually quite restrictive. And if this was removed, I think you could get a lot more into this bag because it's actually just kind of in the way. And so some people might find it a little bit too small for their needs. And obviously with this price point being double that of the mini flat bags, either the square or the rectangular, I know a lot of people would then probably prefer to take the mini flat bag because it does contain the same amount of stuff. Now let's move on to the Chanel medium flat bag. And I do think that this is, in terms of the first pro anyway, the most versatile size bag for everyday use and for occasion wear as well, despite being able to fit so much, and it doesn't look overly bulky. And it's pretty balanced, I think, in terms of the fact that it's like the Goldilocks size. It's not too big, it's not too small. Given that the price increment from the small to the medium is only a few hundred, I do think it is worth that extra money to be able to get a size also that is incredibly popular. And if you, in terms of cons, of course, it's not as spacious as larger sizes. You do need to still Tetris a few things in, and it might not also be suitable, therefore, for some evening events where you just need something very small. But again, it's a personal preference thing. And now let's talk, of course, about the jumbo size. This obviously has ample storage for all of your belongings and your kitchen sink, and obviously makes a great travel bag. If you have a minimal aesthetic or you want something more compact, this might not be the bag for you. Also, if you are on the shorter side, this may not be the bag for you. It could swamp you potentially. And I do also think that the price point is quite a lot at the moment. And another con worth mentioning is that the big bag trend really goes in and out. We go in between very small bags and very big ones. If you really care about trends, then this one might not be suitable for your events at certain points in time. Then finally for the maxi, obviously being the biggest of the bunch, it is obviously something that can be a perfect travel or work bag because you can just pack so many things in. With that being said, I think the price point is pretty horrendous for a bag like that, which to be honest, if I was picking the jumbo or the maxi, I'd probably do jumbo. If you're again a little bit shorter, a bit smaller, I think that bag will swamp you. It doesn't look good on everybody. And basically with that bag, the main use case to wear it is for traveling or for work. So if that is not what you want that bag for, and you want something that's a bit more all-rounded, some of the smaller sizes I think would be much better choices for you to consider. So now let's talk about wear and tear, and I'm just going to very quickly shuffle through the bags obviously that I have in my possession. My mini in particular, there is no wear on the sides of this bag or really on the inside of this bag. Granted, I don't wear this one every single day, but given that it is 5 years old, almost 6 I think at this stage, it is pretty immaculate, and I think the single flap helps it, to be honest. Right, and I think the crumple calf also helps conceal what would have been, you know, visible marks. And I'm really surprised also that there has been no color transfer. Now, the small classic flap size is a little bit of a different story, and I think it's because it's in a lighter color and it's also got the sheen. So we do have some corner wear. So here you might be able to see a little bit of wear. We do have a little bit of slight corner wear here as well. Nothing crazy, and to be honest, I have worn this bag a lot. On the interiors, it's pretty good at the moment. There are some, because of the grommets of the bag, because of the double flap as well, that we do have some denting, and that I suppose also comes from this little zip here as well. The inside also is not doing so bad, a couple of small little scratches, but that's more from my own use, and interior is also pretty good. But yeah, this is a very light bag, so I'm not very surprised that there's a little bit of marking on it. But actually, that being said, no color transfer on the back. Now onto my Chanel medium flat bag, and obviously I have 2 here and they're both wearing pretty well despite the almost daily use. And this one has held up immaculately, I must say, despite the color. It has basically no corner wear. It's crazy. It's a bit more of a softer, more supple caviar as well, and I do prefer this, a hybrid between caviar and lambskin, because the color really does pop but without showing any signs of damage. And now let's move on to the reissue bag, which I have worn a lot less than the other bags, and it does show a little bit of corner wear, so I do think that this is just a symptom of having a lighter colored bag. The base in particular has suffered, I suppose, the most, but I'm not really too bothered given that I really do use my bags. On the insides, it's very immaculate, bar a few of the indentations made by the grommets or the zip. And I do think the electric blue does a really, really good job of hiding and concealing all other kind of scratches on the. So now let's round off this video by talking about my own personal recommendations if you are indeed looking to add a classic flap to your bag collection. If you do have affinity towards the brand, if you still want to add one, especially if you're newer to luxury fashion or just to handbag collections in general, there are 2 recommendations that I would have. So the first one is if you are on a tighter budget and looking for a compact yet practical bag. I think, as do many as luxury content creators out there, that the Chanel mini rectangle flap or the square flap is a really good choice. And I think if you want something that looks the most like the Chanel classic flap, then the rectangle is obviously almost a shrunk down version of the smalls that we have here. This one is half the price of the small. It fits just as much. I do think the single flap helps as well in terms of having more of that capacity. And I think it is a great all-round bag, especially if you like mini bags anyway. This is great, you know, for the crossbody wear. This one is pretty much the only one that I can do comfortably amongst all of my bags. And Obviously, very, very cute size. Just something to consider is that this plus the square, I believe, are no longer potentially made in caviar leather. They might just be in the lambskin or some other seasonal materials. If that is really the case, then obviously you can consult the pre-loved websites. Outside of that, if you are willing to save a bit more money and then splurge on one holy grail bag that does it all, I personally think that the medium flat bag is the one that gets my vote. I have 2 of these bags, so that should signal to you that this is the perfect size, I think, for me. It is super versatile in the ways that you can wear it, has ample capacity for all your belongings and then some, and I do think that is a really good investment piece. Not, I suppose, necessarily in the resale sense, even though this is probably the most popular size, but I also think in terms of longevity, I think it's a good investment. And I can imagine myself rocking these bags, especially this one, I think is a very kind of classic colorway, till I am old and grey. This is a good all-round bag that doesn't look super bulky on a lot of people, whereas I think if you go up one extreme or the other, bigger or smaller, they tend to maybe swamp or just kind of be dwarfed by that bag. And also, given the price differences between them all, I think the medium is just like a couple hundred or something more than the small, and obviously fits a significant amount more. And I think then once you have the medium flap and if you have the mini, then you can start considering other sizes in between. And then in terms of the material, I'd obviously recommend caviar leather. That is what I get all of my Chanel bags in because of the durability and longevity over time, compared to the lambskin or even limited edition material counterparts. It's just not worth it, especially for the extortionate, often higher price points. You'll wear it twice, it will get pulled on some sort of clothing or something or a door and your item's ruined. Then in terms of hardware, that is honestly based on your own personal preference. So I personally gravitate towards the champagne gold and the silvers because I wear those kind of lighter hardware. Again, very personal preference, but if you... That is the end of today's classic flap guide video. We've obviously covered so much ground, so thank you all for staying if you're indeed still here. Hopefully with today's video you now have a comprehensive understanding of this iconic piece and that it will help your decision to find the best classic flap bag for you. It's a very personal decision, so make sure to consider your lifestyle, your preferences, and of course your budget. Above all, make sure that it brings you joy and happiness. Anyways, thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one.